the bulk of the body of what I've done comes from, the Cuban culture, our Miami culture. Like little hints of beach or palm trees, and definitely the women,
And the colors also.
And the colors, definitely. That's subliminal, I guess, inspiration. I mean, the colors that when you go down to the South Beach and you see the blues and the greens and the yellows, I mean, it's inevitable. And then, being here in Miami, it's inevitable to not be influenced by all things beautiful, especially the women. I mean,
there we go. I was going to go back to that, the women.
Yeah,
I mean, you're in the best place, huh? You knew I was going to go back to that one. Outtakes, I love it.
This episode was hosted by Meli Hernandez, who interviewed Carlos at Boca Tan on Brickell, where he'd done the interior design and turned it into a permanent art installation.
As far as inspiration, you grew up in New York. During that time, there was the whole pop art movement, the Andy Warhols, etc. What did you use that also? Did you like that?
Definitely. I mean, my first inspirations, ironically, were like the surrealism, Dali, and all that movement. Subsequent to that, then I was also drawn to the whole abstract movement, Picasso, etc. But it was something that I guess I didn't realize was getting implanted in me, which was the pop art movement. Because I was growing up in New York when Andy Warhol was beginning to do his thing. Lichtenstein had been doing his thing, and then towards the end I had already left New York. But in the 70s, when Keith Haring had kind of come onto the scene with his super simple pop art that everybody tend to love, then I guess when I started doing my stuff, that had been instilled in me, and it kind of just came out. So the idea was to create a giant shadow box to give it some depth, so it wouldn't just be the image on the wall, being that it's so large, and to be able to appreciate it. So we painted the back portion red and did that whole weaving with the rope so that the image is actually just kind of floating there.
What's this Pop Suave thing? Pop Suave, I guess you could say.
That actually,
Suave.
I was being interviewed, I think it was in 2000 or 2001, by one of the writers for a local news publication. And in the interview, she, in Spanish, had said, well, your art is definitely pop, pero más suave. Because it wasn't like that in-your-face, explosion of pop art, like the traditional pop art, even though it had elements of pop art. So that's where that term came up at the time. So throughout the years, on and off, people have called it that.
Now, have you always been an artist? Because I read about you in '92 that one of your brother's friends had asked you to actually sketch something for a hotel in South Beach. Is that how you got started?
Well, that's kind of like, I want to say, I always had like that dormant desire. I think back in '92, '93, the seed was planted, and it wasn't until '99 or 2000 that it finally started to blossom, where I realized it was my passion, what I needed to pursue.
You were also commissioned by Gibson Guitars you had to paint a 10-foot rendition of a guitar, no?
Well, it was called Miami Guitar Town, and it was a project that Gibson Guitar sponsored last year, where they commissioned like 30-something artists to paint on these 10-foot Gibson guitars, and the one they asked me to depict on there was the painting that's called Babalu, which is a loose interpretation of Desi Arnaz with his conga drum and his famous Babalu incarnations. So
you've been commissioned by a lot of companies, such as Perry Ellis or Ford. Also, the Super Bowl, you were commissioned by them to do a poster for their international media. How do you feel being known not just here in Miami locally, but all throughout the U.S.?
As an artist, anybody who's in the arts, whether you paint, sing, dance, sculpt, whatever, part of what you do, even though it's not part of the original plan, is that you start realizing as you go on doing your business, is that you start leaving a legacy. So it's kind of interesting. Years ago, it was kind of cool when you realize that somebody's actually noticing it. And then it moves on to, like, you start realizing that there's importance in what you're doing, because whatever you do is going to be there pretty much for a long time, you know. So I think that's pretty cool. So it kind of controls a little bit, you know, what direction you're heading and how you want to be remembered.
As far as the first time that your work was actually shown, when was that, and how did you feel about that?
I believe the first time when I made the decision to actually start exhibiting was in, I want to say it was like January of 2000. And again, it was just kind of like very serendipitous, because, you know, a lot of things just started happening subsequent to that, which I really didn't plan. And as I say, the rest is history, so to speak, because a lot of things just started coming to me. I was very fortunate because I didn't have to really go knock on doors or, you know, stick a portfolio under my arm and try to, you know, procure places to exhibit or people to pay attention. Things just actually started, that led to the Guanajuato poster I did, which led to a commission from McCarty, which then I did, the Miami International Book Fair. So it's like, it was like one thing after the other just started occurring, almost like little dominoes, no pun intended, falling. And then the domino, there's something
Amigos
that I've done
for Kids.
for Amigos for Kids that's dear to my heart. I've been doing that now. I've been involved with Amigos for about 12 years, and I've done the domino, the ING domino night poster and the painting for Amigos for like the last 8 years, I want to say. I tell people a lot, what I do is my passion, but at the same time, it's no different than someone who leaves their house in the morning and goes to, is a dentist. Somebody may be an attorney, somebody may be, a banker. My art is what I do. It's my career. It's what I just happen to be fortunate to be able to do what I love. I came from a corporate environment prior to doing this, and I still worked out. I still did. I was still me in essence, but I was miserable because I did not love what I was doing. A lot of times I think it's a cop out. And the art establishment has created this notion that an artist needs to be this dark, tortured soul. Drinking absinthe and cutting off body parts in order to be, considered a great artist or something. I mean, I don't think art needs to be. Well, I always tell kids when I go speak, there is no such thing as good or bad art or right or wrong art. An artist expresses and depicts what he likes, feels, etc. And if there's artists that need to depict the darkness in their life, well, so be it. I mean, I really don't have that dark cloud or that dark aura, but I think if I did, I would still choose to portray more of the positive aspects of life and something that someone's going to look at and feel better after looking at it than going home and having to down a fifth of Jack Daniels because they got depressed from looking at the painting. So now whether people, like I said, you can't please all the people all the time anyhow. So like I said, the number one person you got to please is yourself. So like I said, I'm fortunate and blessed to do what I love, and I happen to like what I depict, and that's the fact that other people may or may not, I really don't control that.
Carlos, thank you so much. It's always fun sitting down and talking to you. Carlos talked me into getting a tan, so I'm on my way in. Let's see how it goes. There we go. I just got the instruction how to do it, so let's see. Let's see if there's any difference. I'm too pasty anyways. There we go. Bokeh tanning. I just started getting color. See? This is only what, 10% of the color?
About 15% of the color.
15% of the color. Leave it a little while and then we'll see what we're talking about.